Hey guys, and welcome to the second part of our CoronaLayeredMTL car paint tutorial. So with all the maps ready from the previous lesson, we can now get to the actual creation of the car paint. So first, let's just look again at our photo, what we are trying to achieve, and let's start working on that. Our scene contains our good old Mercedes testing model, some simple ground, and some environment map that is, semi HDRI. So I've also added Corona Sun to get an actual sunlight in the scene with the correct exposure. And if I start rendering the scene, this is how it looks like. So on the part of the car where the car paint should be currently is just black glossy, pretty much mirror material. It's a stand-in material, and let's now start working and replace it with the CoronaLayeredMTL. Let's assign our layered material and let's get this base layer, rename it to base, and since our car paint is blue and slightly metallic, let's just disable diffuse. For the reflection color, let's pick the blue that we see on the picture. I think this should do. Increase the reflection to 1, decrease the glossiness until we get about the glossiness of the highlight we see on our reference image. So I think like 0.32 should do the trick. And start raising our Fresnel IOR until we get to the similar result. I think it's slightly more towards cyan, the color that is too much, and maybe even more saturated. But again, this is some camera response curve on top of it, so it's more contrasted than just usual linear workspace. We have to take that into account. I think this is actually looking quite right for our base layer. So for our coating, let's get another Corona material. Let's call it a coat. Let's set diffuse again to 0, reflection to 1, Fresnel to 10, and that's pretty much it. And let's set it as layer 1. Layer 0 will be reserved for our flakes layer. So to mask our coating, we're just gonna get fall off map, set to Fresnel. 1.4 should be a good starting point. Let's rename it to Fresnel mask. And since this is layer 1, let's plug it into mask 1. Actually, I think we can increase it further to like 1.6 for the Fresnel. Look around and compare it with our reference image. Well, it looks, well, it could look better. Let's actually try to play with this. This is darker. I think it's more close to it, and actually our base layer could be perhaps even more saturated. And slightly less glossy. I think that's actually a good, at least starting point for this kind of car paint. So if we take now look up close, or maybe just completely isolate this, we have just clean car paint, no flakes. So now we can just start working on the flakes themselves. So let's take a look at our other reference, and you can see it's just those almost mirror-like glitter speckles, basically in some jelly or something. So let's try to recreate this. So let's get kernel material, call it Flakes, and again make this really shiny mirror, reflection, so Fresnel 100, reflection 1, diffuse level 0. Let's plug it here, which is gonna make a mirror out of our car. And now we can first of all get our bitmaps. So let's get car paint flakes normal, decrease the blurring, plug this into Flakes. It's normal map, so let's get kernel normal first. Plug it into normal map, enable add gamma to the input, so we do not have to do it in the open loading window. Let's plug this into the bump, and just check out how it works. Of course, for it to work properly, we need to have correct mapping on our car. So since this is a noisy map, it's simple like noise. Even if you have bad UVs, it's gonna look good because you won't be able to identify the seams. Therefore, I've just thrown on a UVW map box. And as you can see, everything looks great and doesn't have any apparent seams. So I think this is the size I'm after, 20 by 20 by 20 centimeters in my case. So our mapping is obviously right. So let's get back to the flakes themselves, and let's duplicate this and get the mask. For the mask, we will set the blur. Oh, actually, let's keep it that way. And since this is layer 0, let's call this a flakes mask and plug it into mask 0. So now, if we inspect our car paint, we can see we have the mirror flakes on top of our car paint, of our base layer rather. And now we can go again to our previous picture and again look at what we are trying to achieve. So right off the bat, the reflection color of the flakes is wrong, as well as their intensity. And here I would like to stop and say that the most people think, or not most people, but some people think it's necessary to have additive layering mode for the flakes to look right. And I don't think that's true, but I can totally understand them, because additive layering mode makes creating of car paint flakes a lot more easier. There's a lot less science into the creation process. But the problem with the additive mode is that it breaks energy conservation, so it makes rendering really slow and also makes the rendering code itself quite messy. Therefore, Corona at the moment doesn't have additive layering mode, and it's probably not gonna be in there in the near future. But the way to achieve the good looking flakes without additive mode is actually there, and I'm gonna show it to you now. If we just start working on our flakes, if we just grab this color, reflection color, and set it here, we can see that while we are getting some nice like speckles and glitter on the highlights, we are also getting some like dark speckles, darkening. That's because the flakes are pretty much mirrors at this point, and some of them reflect in the direction of the sun, so they pick up highlights, but some of them reflect darker parts like bottom of the environment, so take it darker. And when you're looking at the photos, you usually see those bright speckles, but you don't see those dark ones. So that's a problem that the additive layering mode actually solves. But the truth there is that while the darkening is usually not that strong, it's just a range from like 0 to 1, the highlights can pick up sunlight, so they can be like 50 times brighter than white. So therefore, if we decrease the overall intensity of the flakes, the dark ones will almost disappear, whereas the bright ones will remain still bright, and therefore we will get still those nice bright speckles, but we will get rid of those dark ones that are not desired. So in the practice, currently with this setup, the way we control the flakes is the normal map strength multiplier basically controls the angle of the flakes, how much they are angled, how much they are rotated. So 0.1, not really much of the rotation going on. 1 is they're quite rotated. 10 is the rotation is really amplified. So like if I set it to 2, the spread of the flakes will really increase. And for the start, I will keep this at 1. And the flakes mask itself, its RGB level will be controlling the overall contribution of the flakes layer. So we can see I set it to 10%, and we can see we are still getting some very, very bright dots, even though the dark parts of the flakes completely disappeared and we still get highlights. But these highlights are obviously too sparse, and that's because currently our flakes are complete mirror. So to fix that, we can start to decrease glossiness to increase the frequency of our flakes. So you can see as I'm decreasing the glossiness, the reflection of the flakes pick up wider angle, and there's more chance that some of them will hit the sunlight disk, and therefore we're getting more and more flakes. But also, as we are decreasing the glossiness, the overall intensity of the flakes decreases as well, which in this case is actually quite desired. You just shouldn't go too low. So in the end, basically, the trick here is to balance 3 values. The glossiness, which is basically the spread of the reflection of the flakes. The RGB level in the flakes mask, which is basically the overall intensity of the flakes. For example, in mental ray car paint material, this defaults to 0.2, so you shouldn't definitely use as high values as 1, because obviously then you get those strong dark spots which you do not want. And the third thing you can play with is the strength multiplier, which is, again, as I said, is the rotation of the flakes or the strength of the normal map. We cannot adjust the density of the flakes, unfortunately, because our map is not procedural, but you can pre-render a few normal maps of varying densities and have them ready at your hand whenever you need them. So to again look at our reference, the density of the flakes or the perceived density of on the highlight is not as large, so we can actually increase the glossiness to something like 0.6 or even 0.7. So this is about the right amount, I think. And we can just also take a look at how the rotation impacts it. It basically controls the spread from around the highlights further down to the shadows. And I think we can actually increase this further. Maybe even further. Yep, this is actually getting close, but obviously our flakes are too strong, so again we can go back to the flakes map and decrease it to 0.1. And if you remember, in the previous part we've also created colored noise map, which we are going to utilize right now. So let's get our colored noise, decrease the blurring again. We are going to get our RGB multiply node. But first of all, since our reflection color is really bright and this is averaged 50% gray, we have to brighten this up a bit. So let's enable clamping and let's start to increase the RGB level so that we have some color variance but our map remains bright. And once this is done, this will go to the bottom slot and the blue color will go to the top slot. So we will basically multiply the colored noise with our original reflection color and plug this back to the reflection color itself. Our flakes are darkened and we can just start to decrease the saturation to let more of that random color show in our flakes. So if I now get really close, you can see how those flakes pick up some random color. Some are yellow, some are purple. And yeah, I think that's actually exactly what we were after. So again, if I go further away from the car, we can see the flakes starting to show up. I will increase the resolution slightly and check out how it looks in the full resolution. And we are really getting those randomly colored speckles as you would expect in a real car paint flakes. Obviously they may be too small, so what we can do is go here, decrease the tiling of the normal map. Let's not forget to decrease the tiling of our car paint flakes mask as well. And let's give it another shot. Yep, those are slightly bigger and we can see the nice flaking effect. Again, it may be too strong and also the spread could be a little larger, so I'm gonna decrease the glossiness slightly and the intensity as well to like 0.5. And comparing to our result, they may be still too strong. So again, we can decrease this so the rotation is not so random. We can decrease the glossiness of the flakes and we can increase slightly the weight of the flakes layer itself. And I think this is actually quite nice result. If we change the camera to look against the sunlight like this, we can again see the nice flaking starting to show up all over our car paint. So we can just go back to our entire car and just try some close-up here. And again, we are getting nice car paint flaking effect. So I think I'm happy with the way the car paint with flakes looks. And now we will proceed to add some dirt to our car as well. So this shouldn't be that hard. Let's isolate this again. Let's just create a new kernel material. And for the time being, let's make it red so we really see what's going on in there. Put it into layer 2. Call it a dirt. And let's get a splat procedural map, which is nice for some splashes. Let's set it as mask. And this color is going to be black. This one is going to be white. Blur is going to be real low. We'll decrease the size. Alright, now we will decrease the tiling. And let's try to rotate it around this axis, like this. Let's play with the threshold. Actually, this looks kind of nice. Alright, we got our basic splash, but we want to mask it so it only appears at the bottom. So what we're going to do is we're going to take mix map and gradient ramp. The gradient map, let's temporarily apply just dirt so we see the texture. The gradient ramp is going to have map channel 2. We're going to create a new mapping planar with map channel 2, which is here. Let's rotate it, fit it to the car. Let's plug this into diffuse just for the time being and rotate it 90 degrees. Great. This is going to be black. And let's rotate it like this. All right. So we have our mask for the dirt or the dirt splashes. And let's try to set it to ease in. That's better. Okay, so now that we have our mix, this is going to go as a mix amount. This is going to go to the diffuse, just for now. This is going to go to the color 2. Great. We can actually move this a little further down. And now we can actually clamp the entire thing so the dirt is not so fading. Like this. I actually don't think the splat is working well, so let's try noise instead. Alright, and same thing as we did with the split map. You can just rotate this and play with the clamping of the map. Yeah, this looks definitely better. And we can play with the gradient color to let some of the dirt actually, I mean noise color, to let some of the dirt dust sit on a paint as well, just slightly. Like this. Okay. Let's get back to our gradient, maybe push it a little up. Okay, maybe also introduce some noise to the gradient. Let's see if that works. well, it works, but not the way I expect it to. So let's just keep that off. Okay, and now let's use this as a mask for our layer, which is for some reason not working, because I forgot that we have to assign the entire layered material back. Now it's gonna work. There we go. So all we need to do right now is just the texture, the dirt material with some nice texture of dirt. So let's grab this, put it in the diffuse, see how it maps on our car, put it also in a bump. We can lower the filtering and we can really crank up the bump and decrease the tiling. So let's get back to our gradient or our noise. We can offset the black to get more dirt showing up on a car, and maybe also rotate our mapping. Oops. You have to extend the mapping, obviously, so it covers the entire chassis. Alright, so if we now take a look at our result, you can see we have nice dirty smudges on a car, some dust at the bottom, and we have some nice car paint material with the speckles exactly as we would expect to see it on the photograph. And what we can try to do, once more, we can disable the environment as well as the sun and create just a simple Corona light, just to preview how our materials look in the neutral lighting conditions. Let's get closer. This is the quite large light source, but again we can see that nice soft flaking happening all over the highlights. We can see our dirt looks nice and plastic. If we maybe decrease the radius to something more subtle or smaller, increase the intensity, we get smaller highlights, more focused, and again we can see the flakes are working really nice, and so does the dirt. Alright, so this is it for the layered material tutorial. I hope you found it useful, and I'll see you next time.